Want to make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere and earn even more money. All in one place, and it's for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup looks like, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. Best of all, it's totally free with no catch. Ever since we discovered Spotify for Podcasters, we feel like having options like video podcasts, Q&A, and polls has let us be creative on a whole other level. I highly recommend you give it a try. So download Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. Welcome back, Exes and T podcast fans. It's Danny here. You guys are back at it again with another episode. We're back at it again with another anti-Amway, anti-Worldwide Dream Builders episode. You guys, I don't ever get tired of talking about this, and I know you guys don't get tired of listening to it because that's why you guys come here. With that being said, like always, we have to give this disclaimer, which I was re-listening to some old episodes, and my disclaimer has slowly evolved because at one point I was like, oh, I don't have beef with Amway. Yeah, no, I actually do. So I'm not here to defame anybody. Okay. I'm not here to defame Worldwide Dream Builders. I'm not here to defame Amway. All of the people who I will be talking about today, including the person that I'm speaking with, we have changed everybody's names for anonymity. I'm not here to ruin anybody's lives. I'm here to spread a message. And to me, that is very important. But even with that, though, we have stories. We're allowed to share them. And just don't sue me. Please, Amway, please, Worldwide. I hate you guys, but I'm also not here to defame you. If you guys are out there listening and you want to join these organizations or stay in them, hey, you do you. I'm not here to tell you what you can and can't do. You're an adult. With that being said, though, please listen to some of these stories because I hope maybe you will reconsider or maybe proceed with caution. So, you guys, I'm excited. I have somebody here today who has been a fan of ours, somebody who reached out to me and is here totally anonymous. You guys, I'm excited because she has a totally different perspective with Worldwide. She was in for my time and she has seen a lot more of the progressions that we see today. And I'm really excited to bring with us Veronica. Thank you so much, Veronica, for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I am so intrigued by your story because of everything that obviously beforehand we've talked about. And how did you find this podcast?
Yeah, so I found this podcast through Facebook. I'm part of the Amway and Worldwide group, Facebook group that you're part of. And I think you posted your podcast in there after I was listening to somebody else's podcast, Life After MLM, another great podcast. And I ran into yours and I was like, oh, I can relate to a lot of this. Like, this is right up my alley.
Absolutely, which obviously you guys go check out if you haven't already. Life After MLM. Roberta Blevins is incredible. She has so many fantastic episodes. And especially if you were in Amway, check out all of her Amway episodes too. Just so much insight to the history of Amway and the tools businesses. And I also have to shout out from TikTok, the anti-MLM Lemon. You guys, she's hilarious. She is on Totally Anonymous. She does this really funny voice and she's the little lemon character. So cute. And then also the anti-MLM kid. The anti-MLM kid is a person who was raised in Amway. Her parents were diamonds in Amway. She doesn't talk about who her parents were. However, it's really good perspective. And she just is honestly just as great as all of these other people. So if you guys haven't already, please go check them out. But I'm really happy that you had reached out to me because your story, like it's so interesting the way that it starts out. Like, where were you at in your life when you got introduced to this business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do want to be really vulnerable here and just share kind of like where my mental state was, where I was personally. So a little bit backstory about me is I went to college from 2008 to 2009. And I was in a major car accident where I fractured my lower back. So I had to drop out of school for a little bit so that I could heal and recover. And then I just didn't go back to school right away because I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. So fast forward a little bit. It's 2011. I had sought help for my mental health and I had just got out of the mental health hospital. and I was back working my part-time jobs. I was working 3 jobs at the time in retail. And when I was approached, I was open to something different in life, more an opportunity to make more money. And that's how it was presented to me. It was, hey, you seem really sharp. Are you keeping your options open? Because I work with a bunch of people who are in retail and they have these connections and they can help you make a lot of money. I was like, I'm interested, thinking it's going to be a job. so
Yeah.
so that's how
Wow.
I was approached. And then I went through what is now called the process that the Canadians had helped tailor. So I went through that process, and that's how I got hooked into Worldwide and Amway.
Well, again, I just thank you so much for being vulnerable and kind of, seeing that perspective. I think that adds a lot to kind of like why it is that you were looking for something different. And I think mental health is so important. And that's a conversation that we've had about how Worldwide just kind of disregarded that as a whole, which is really unfortunate. But, especially in those times, you went through a lot. You were in college and then you had this huge sudden thing that you didn't have planned, which was very detrimental to not just your own personal physical health, but your mental health. And then you had to take time off of college for that. And then, you're figuring out your whole mental health journey. And I am so sorry that all of that happened. Like, I just have so much empathy for you through that time. And it does sound like a prime time for Amway to kind of come in and swoop in and be the savior, if you will. And then the one thing that you said, the do you keep your options open? That is the most like standard Worldwide Dream Builder, Amway, and I'm sure a lot of different MLMs now are probably adapting to that, but that's the way it was pitched, right? And they mentioned somebody in their upline and they say, kind of like you had said, oh, I know some people in retail who, were able to meet a couple and they like walked away from their jobs or like whatever it is that they continue saying, but they related to you directly. So if you guys hear the term, do you keep your options open? You don't keep your options open.
Run.
Oh, so when you were getting first introduced to this opportunity and you were going through this process, we call them Don and Mary here. That is the Canadian couple who kind of quote started the process. We've heard a lot about them from Lana. We heard about them from Hope and Fisher, and and you're going through this process. What was it about this organization that you were seeing that you were really interested in?
I was really interested in the leadership aspect and the coaching and the mentoring, and they seem to have ethics, which they do not have ethics. I'm just going to throw that out there now. If you've been listening to Danny's podcast for a while, or if this is your first time, you'll learn more about that. But they seem to be a great organization. My first board plan that I went to was to meet the Crown in my hometown,
Oh,
and they let me bring my friend who didn't go through the process. They just let me bring her, and they let me bring my mom.
well,
So they were just like love bombing me too. And they were just like, oh, your daughter's so great. She's so intelligent. She's going to go far. We're going to help her. And my mom was kind of like weary, but she's like, okay. And I don't know if my parents knew of Amway. They never talked to me about it or never said not to join. And I don't know if I would have listened to them if they had said not to. But I got enamored in this process. And then the next board plan I went to, I met, at the time they were emeralds, I think. Since I've left, they've gone diamond, but we've got Rebecca and Roger. I went to their board
yes.
plan. And just hearing his story about how he used to be in real estate and how he got out of that and how he thought this was a scam. That should have been my first clue. It is a scam. But he's telling his story. He's like, this is a scam. I'm not going to join. And then he joined, right? And now he's gotten other people to join since then. So just being around the association, and everybody was so positive and happy. And I didn't realize it was like a fake happy, but
Yeah,
they kind of
which
put
is
on that
great.
persona.
So absolutely. And when you're in this position where, like, I mean, you're in retail, and anybody who's been in retail knows that sometimes you have bad days. Sometimes customer service in general just is not the most fun environment to be in, whether it's maybe a coworker, a manager, or a customer. You have rough days. So when you walk into a place like this, I can only imagine that it was like, oh my gosh, finally, somewhere where people are actually like wanting to move forward with their lives. People who are happy and motivated, and they do a really good job of what they call maintaining a sponsoring environment where everybody's just so fucking god awful positive, which right now is very, it's a facade. But in the moment, it's awesome. It feels good. And then, like you also mentioned, this love bombing, and the reason why we use the term love bombing here is because this really does lead into manipulation. We're not just throwing this term around as if we don't know what it means. I'm saying this because I've had some people with skepticism, and I would just want to be very clear that this is a level of manipulation that is happening, and that's how it starts with worldwide. So I think you use that word perfectly, and especially to do that with your parents too, like, it just adds this extra level of, in my opinion, fucked up. And you're in there. Oh, and I want to go back real quick. Rebecca and Roger, I'm 90% sure that they went diamond in 2017. They went diamond while I was in the business. I think they went diamond around the same time as the club owner and his wife. I'm pretty sure they all went diamond around the same time. If I'm wrong, please correct me. If you guys know that timeline, you know who we're talking about, let me know. But otherwise, you're seeing these big people, emeralds, you're seeing the crown guys speak, and they're speaking with such conviction. And what is it about this organization outside of like the positivity? Like, what were some of the things that they kind of made you believe were possible through the organization that you could accomplish?
They made me believe it was possible that I could make lots of money. They said I could make 6 figures in 2 to 5 years. Um, they made me believe that I could fix my mental health through this organization, which is interesting. They just made me believe that I was built for a bigger purpose, and that I had a voice and a story to share, and that I could help impact many other people with my story. And I think that's so funny now, because there's more than one outlet to share your story. So, uh, but yeah, they had me convinced that I could do all those things. Oh, and they helped me believe that I could increase my income. So anytime that I jumped hoops to get to a new job that paid higher, they took the credit for that.
Yes. And that's gross. Yeah. Especially with the industry that you were hopping into. I actually had a memory sparked from me after you had said that they had kind of taken credit for that. I had another guest on. She came on, and honestly, her name was Hannah. They tried to take credit for her getting into the finance industry as well. I believe she was in banking or something, but they heavily were like, "We did this for you," and she was like, "No, like, I did this for me." And the fact that they take away some, like, I feel like getting a position, especially in the career path that you would end up going on, that's something to take pride in. And to take that away from you is so demeaning. Kind of looking back now, how do you feel about the fact that they were trying to take that from you?
Looking back on it, like, it's just so gross and slimy. But at the end of the day, it's me. I'm the one who got myself into a better paying job. I'm the one who got myself into the career path that I'm in. So really, they can't take, like, I'm taking the power back now. They can't take credit for that, because that was all me.
Yes, yes, take your power back, girl. I'm telling you. And I love the fact that you mentioned sharing your story and making a difference, and how there's many different outlets to share your story. Hello, hi. This is one of them. I love hearing that, especially because that's a lot of the reasons why we join worldwide, right? Or various different Amway lines of affiliation, because we want to help people. That is the root of why I feel like a lot of people get introduced to it, and why they stick around, is because, no, I could really help somebody with this. And especially with your background in mental health, like, I can imagine there's probably a lot of people out there who struggled with the same things, and hearing your story would really, really impact them. I think the frustrating thing is the fact that with Worldwide, you almost have to be brainwashed enough to be able to speak. And that's why I think I love doing this, because all of the stories that we wanted to share, we kind of just left with them and we didn't have anywhere to really do anything with it. And now we have this cult aspect of it too. So I think that's really admirable. And I'm really grateful that you have been so vulnerable and coming on here and sharing your story. But again, it just shows to why you were so interested, because you have a big heart and you care about people.
Yeah.
And through this time, as you're getting introduced to it, what did it look like for you to become a business owner? Like, what were your maybe some expectations that they had on you?
Okay, so some of the expectations and what it looked like for me when I was going through the business and what it meant to be a business owner is that was one of the questions I had asked them. I asked them like 100 questions, I swear. And they had an answer for every question. And I was just like, okay, I'm sold. But one of the things was you have to be coachable, you have to be accountable, you have to show up, and honor your word. And so if you could do those things, then they could coach you. In other words, brainwash you. And but
Oh yeah.
they could coach you into becoming a success story, supposedly, and help you make lots of money and help you be an impact on other people's lives for the positive. And
Wow.
then you are also expected to run your circle or your point value, your dittos, on the first of every month. If you were single, you had to run 150 PV. If you were a couple, I think it was 300. So for me, back at the time, before inflation, we're looking at $500 a month just on
Wow.
ditto. And that's not even including the tools, the coaching system that they want you to plug into. I think to get on standing order and communicate, to plug into that, I was paying 112 at the time. And we got CDs back in the day. Like we had physical CDs before they went into their digital platform app that they now have. But when I was in at the time, it was physical CDs and you were handing those out like candy. So
Really? I've always wondered what that looked like, because they talked about that when I was in, as if those were like ancient times, like our ancestors, if you will, were the ones who listened to CDs. So you said you were there passing them out. Like, where did you get your CDs from? Like, how did you order them?
you had to order them from the system. And I think CDs were like $10 a CD. So like even though you were handing them out like candy, you were also like, if you're putting somebody through the process, you want that back if they don't continue.
Wow.
So yeah. So I think overall, and then you have to pay for the functions and the regionals, and those range anywhere from regionals for like $10 at the door cash, which should have been suspicious that they didn't take checks. And if you wrote a check, you had to write it out to cash.
Yes, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So that way they could, I don't know, launder it, but that's just my thinking now that I work in that field.
Right, right. Speculation, allegedly. For personal opinion.
Personal opinion. But and then functions were anywhere from $150 to $300 to attend, depending on the time of year. I think they had 4 functions a year that you were expected to plug into. And you were always expected to plug into your events before you even ran your ditto, which was really interesting because you think you make
Yes.
money off the ditto running your, selling your products, but no. Like now that I'm out and come to find out, they actually make money off of your tools. So that
Which
was,
is a sad thing.
yeah, that was the expectation both ways.
Wow. Yeah, gosh, you know what you did? You sparked a memory for me. You're right. They did. If you have a check, you're supposed to write it, you address it to cash. I forgot about that. And I have since learned now these rallies that were $10 for the morning part and $10 for the afternoon part, they're now $20 for one portion. So $20 for the first half, $20 for the second half. Guests are still free. But if you're a couple, both people still have to pay. And I'm thinking that's $80 for like two people to go to these rallies, right? And it's like of course inflation, right? We understand that things go up with price,
Things
but
go up, but your
how
salary, you
right,
know?
right. And it's like it's really interesting now to kind of look back at that and it's like and I've always questioned because of course we know that these arenas cost money. We know that, cost money to rent out a hotel room or whatever. But the amount of money that they're getting from the amount of people that are showing up, that pays for those rooms, I'm sure, like over and over again. And that's where I'm thinking, like, oh, damn, like, how did I never question this? But you're right. You don't think about it until you're out and you kind of realize how fishy it is.
Well, that and
But the expectations. So go
they
ahead.
they teach you that everything you do is a business write-off. So like if you write a check for cash, you write yourself a little receipt that you paid cash and you get to turn that in for tax time.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that. I mean, you're not wrong, but you're right. Everything they did was justifiable one way or another. And I like too that you said that you had so many questions and they always had an answer for it. And looking at that now, I wonder. It just feels kind of like, especially when we were in, it kind of feels like they're almost media trained, right? Like they have something in their head predetermined that they know okay, we've had enough people like ask this question. This is how we can answer it. And they do it so like crisp and clear and like believable,
Mhm.
which is wild. And then kind of going to that PV amount. So you're spending $500 a month before the tools on just your Amway products. And this was at a time where you were working still in retail, right? And then you eventually kind of moved forward. And financially speaking, were you doing okay at this time?
So before they would even let me join the business, they wanted me to find a full-time job or at least, have a business building daytime job. So that way you could build the business at night because they don't have business meetings during the day. They're always at night. So I got a 9 to 5 job in retail and I thought I was doing good back then because I was making like $12 an hour, $13 an hour, which isn't very much. And so when I was going through my budgets the other night and looking at like how much I actually brought in versus how much was going out, more than half of my pay was going to Amway or the tools business.
Holy, that's sobering for sure. Because at the same as well, are you paying rent and kind of just figuring out how to pay your bills elsewhere?
Yeah. So luckily for me at the time, I was renting from my parents' house. They had a retirement house in the area where I live. So they were letting me stay there as long as I helped pay a portion and did some chores, helped keep the house up. So I was fortunate in that regard. But I think I was paying like $400 a month for rent. They might not have charged me at rent in the beginning. I might have started paying them rent to get them off my backs about Amway before
Got
I
it.
moved out. But
Wow.
yeah, so but they were just like, figure it out, make it work. If you have to host more product parties to sell more, you do what you got to do. And you can recoup some of that money to help pay your bills, right? Like that's kind of how it was coached.
Yes. You're right. Like you pay yourself the difference. Like like the analogies that they give are so weird now that I'm thinking about it. Like it's like using a coupon. You take the extra money from the coupon that off, then you put it into your savings account and you're actually saving that money. But if you're saving that money, you're gonna spend it somewhere else anyway. It's like make it make sense because I'm still spending the money on Amway products. Like the way that they pitch this shit is so weird. And you were in for a total of 2.5 years?
I want to say actually 3 or 4 years. So I got around in 2011 and 2015 is when I started fizzling out. Like I stopped,
Okay, okay.
yeah. And then I, yeah, I think about 2015, 2016, that's when I was officially done.
Got it. Okay. And in the beginning, what was your honeymoon phase like? Like you're loving the business, you're fired up, and what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so my honeymoon phase, it felt amazing at the time. I mean, you always had people in your corner that could help coach you on any aspect of your life, from like relationships to money. And so it felt amazing to be a part of this organization that recognized the difficulties you were going through, but they would spin it and make it into she's going through this. What's your excuse? Her car broke down, and yet here she is at a board plan, only because I think I found a friend who like took me on a motorcycle to the plan.
Shout out.
But I mean, even when and you're so sleep deprived, but you're like going because the fact that you're going to retire in 2 to 5 years is just so motivating that you do whatever it takes. And if that means losing some sleep, they're like, you can sleep when you're dead, or you can sleep when you get diamond, right? So, a side story, I actually crashed my parents' car after leaving a board plan one night because I was so tired.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was bad. I mean, luckily I was okay, and the other person in the crash was okay. So everybody walked away fine and got checked out. The hospital was fine. But then I was behind financially because it's like, where am I going to come up with this money for a car now? And I still had to find a way to get to work. And I didn't have any friends at the time because all my friends were in the business. I'd pretty much isolated my friends and family, thinking that they weren't supportive because they had no financial investment in me. Right. So
Yes.
my upline just encouraged me to figure it out. You're a solution seeker, be a problem solver. So I took the public transportation bus, which actually sucks in my city because we're a little bit of a rural town, but city. Um, so I took that to get to board plans, and then I took that to get to work, and I would bike, and it would even hitchhike if I needed to, which is scary. Like, they put you in some vulnerable situations that are unsafe. I mean, you think going to a meeting at somebody's house at 8 o'clock at night is sketch? The fact that like I'm hitchhiking to get to places I need to be, like, that was just really unsafe. Luckily, nothing happened to me. I was fine. But they're like, look what she did. She's so amazing. You guys can do it. And she's still running her circle, even though she crashed her car, but she's going to figure it out.
Wow. Oh my, wow. That's scary. But you're right. Like the sleep deprivation, like that put you into that in itself put you into a dangerous situation, right? Because you got into a car accident and it's directly their fault. Like I don't care what anybody says. That is 1000% their fault because of the manipulation, the brainwashing, the you have to be sleep deprived. You have to come to X, Y, and Z meetings or whatever. And you got into a car accident. And then you were talking about even going to the extent of hitchhiking because you were so dedicated to this business. I mean, I'm going to say this like it shows your loyalty as a human, which I think is a fantastic characteristic. It just, they didn't deserve it. What I'm saying now. But like, that's so true. They put us, especially as women, into these really like dangerous situations where, like, I remember they would tell us, and again edify you. Oh, she hitchhiked to get here. What's your excuse? Or, well, she went to 7-Eleven at 2 in the morning. She hadn't gotten any contact. She didn't stop until she got one name. 7-Eleven at fucking 2 in the morning. I'm from Portland, you guys. That's what I was doing. I was going to 7-Elevens at 2 in the morning in some of the what I would consider little sketchy areas, especially from my surrounding area from where I lived. And of course, they did that. And it's scary, the kind of shit that we do because the accolades feel so good though. Like, did it feel good for you to kind of hear like that you were pushing through the adversity?
Oh, yeah, it did. I mean, especially at the time when you're like struggling with mental health, anything they can do to boost your ego and help you feel better about the situation, you get a high off of it. I mean, they really know how to get the endorphins running. But what's interesting is the fact that I was sleep deprived didn't do me any benefits for my mental health. Like, if you have mental health issues, you need your sleep. You need at least 7 to 8 hours to be a fully functioning human being. But I don't even think they wanted you to be human beings, right? Like they're just turning us into zombies, basically, mindless zombies that follow
Yep.
whatever they say. When they say jump, you say how high. Like,
Yeah, it's true. And they wanted us to do anything that they want. Like you said, if they said jump how high, exactly. And we were happy to do it. In fact, it was like, do you want me to jump now? Do you want me to jump? When do you want me to jump? Like it's almost like going to those extents of like desperation for their praise, because like you talked about and briefly mentioned, it's like we isolate from our families because you're right. Like, oh, they don't have a vested interest in me anymore. They're not supportive. So we like I saw somebody ask the question of is this common for them to do this, to pull you away from families? And I saw somebody explain it really well. And I'm paraphrasing, but the person essentially said, yes, they do it in a very, very like manipulative way, where they essentially say, they don't tell you deliberately, don't hang out with your family. They use terms like, well, you should really spend your time with the people who have the vested interest in you. Are those people, are they being positive in your life? Are they supportive of, are they joining your business? Are they they don't have the fruit on the tree. So, if it comes down to getting around the association or being around your parents who work the same 9 to 5 for maybe 20, 30 years, who are you going to choose? And of course, you're like, oh, yeah, my parents don't have a vested interest in me like these people do. And then you kind of lose that praise that from your family and your friends. And all you have at some point or another is Amway and Worldwide and your upline. And was your family supportive of you being an Amway? I know you said they didn't tell you one way or another, but kind of throughout your time in the business, did they ever say anything about it? Or even after you left?
well, funny enough, we had a conversation yesterday briefly about it. And I told them I was coming on this podcast, and they're like, what will you say? Like, well, and they're like, I don't remember how it came up, but I was like, I told him, I said, I didn't even ask for your advice about this business or if I should join or not. My dad's like, no. And I said, but you never said anything. And he's like, no, he's like, would you have listened to us? And I was like, no, probably not. But my parents were supportive of me being happier and positive. So that meant being a cult at the time, like, fine, whatever, she'll get out of it eventually, is what they're thinking. And I did. But I remember one function, I was trying to sell my Marilyn Monroe pictures to attend a function, and I couldn't find anybody to buy them, and I had no money, crashed the car. And my dad bought the Marilyn Monroe pictures from me so that I could attend a conference.
Wow.
So I would just say, like, if your parents out there and your kids are joining, like, you really do have to write that fine line, unfortunately, but just never quit on your child and never give up hope that they'll get out. And I've done so much better being out than I ever did being in.
That, which is really kind of the whole basis for your episode in general, because like your story after leaving is incredible. And I think it's so inspiring. And what were the red flags that kind of got you to that point where you started to see things differently and you weren't as excited about it anymore? And I know you also would start dating a partner at this time. And what did this journey look like from there?
Yeah, so about 2014, I met this really cool guy at one of the jobs I was working at the time, and we both like Doctor Who. So like we had an instant connection. And we kind of met online, but like we worked together at the same place. So anyhow, he starts hanging around me and he really wants to be serious with me. And this whole time in the business, you're taught don't date until you hit a certain pin or a certain level. And if you are going to date, bring your date around the business. And if they're supportive, then you can be with them. But if they're not, then you should break up with them. So like they're literally controlling who you date. But so that was kind of like a red flag. But I brought him around. I was like, well, if you're serious about me, I'm serious about this business. You should get around some of the people I'm getting around because they're making good money. They're retired, supposedly. I mean, when you work the business, are you ever really retired? because you're working
Good
these
question.
nights. So anyhow, he starts getting around and he's supportive. And so I'm like, oh, he's a great guy. He didn't want to get in the business, but he didn't stop me from building the business. But he starts Googling Amway and getting on Reddit. And he's like, is my girlfriend in a cult?
Ah, love it.
And he found out that through the tools business, they're getting paid off the tools, not necessarily off the dittos that you're running. So he makes comments to me here and there, and he's like, hey, I was reading that they make their money off tools. Did you know about that? And I think I just kind of like shrugged it off. And I was like, like I didn't think anything of it. Like, and then it just started becoming a thing where like after Dream Night of 2015, they actually brought in the founders of Worldwide into my hometown, and I attended that function. I have a picture with them.
Yes, you do. You sent that to me and I saw that. I was like, I was sitting there looking at it. I was like, no way. Like, and I think we talked about this before where like when I was in Worldwide, I would have been like so jealous. I would have been like, no way. Like you met the founders of Worldwide. I've never really named them. I guess I could, to be honest with you guys. I named Bill Britt. So yeah, Worldwide was founded by a couple named Ron and Georgia Lee Prayer. If you guys didn't know that already, hey, you guys know that now. But when I had gotten in, Ron Preer had unfortunately passed away. As much as I think that their story is bullshit, of course, I don't wish ill on anybody who has since passed. So respect in that regard. But when I saw that picture, I was like, no way. Like, that's so wild to me, even still, where I'm like, you really were in the same picture as Ron and Jordan Preer. Um,
And
but this function, go ahead,
yeah,
sorry.
so this function, I went to this function, and that's kind of where my dream started to sizzle out, because it was like, I've been in the business for 4 years now. I'm not making any momentum. I've sponsored one leg at this point in the business. And that the people that I was around and the people that were underneath me, incredible people. Like, and I don't have any feelings towards anybody, because I feel like everybody's kind of manipulated into this business. So you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I started my boyfriend at the time, John, he started just making comments like, oh, they're pouring more into your downline than they are you. Have you noticed that? It's like you're kind of irrelevant. So the love bombing kind of stopped at some point, and I stopped getting that recognition. And I actually have a breakup letter that I wrote them that I never sent them. But but I'm looking at it right now as I'm on this podcast here with you. And it was like, I would love to hang out with you guys, but because of the teachings, I feel like I'm just wasting your time because I'm not adding value to your business. That's when it finally hit me, because you are a commodity.
Wow. Those words are so self-deprecating too. Like you get to this point where your self-worth is just so diminished that when we leave, we feel like we're failing them. And they make us feel like failures. They say it all the time. Oh, we don't talk to quitters. They're quitters. Those people who are online on Reddit, they're just quitters. And they speak so heavily about people who leave. And it's like, that's why we get to that point of self-deprecation, like, oh shit, like I failed. Like I failed you. But then when you say it out loud, you're like, nah, no, you guys failed me.
Yeah. Like I read this letter and I wrote this whole, like, poured my feelings into this. And now that I'm looking at this, I'm like, this is messed up, because this is really about me, not them. Like, they didn't have, as soon as I wasn't valuable to them anymore, it was like, okay, next. It's just a numbers game to them. And that's how they preach it, as a numbers game. They're like, you have some people that will and some people that won't, and some people who will that eventually won't. So so you just keep going through people as numbers. And that's really gross, to like treat somebody who's a valuable human being like they're just something to help you get to the next level.
Yeah, they always say, well, this business you don't step on people, but they do. They do step on people. They step on you the moment that they sign you up and don't tell you that they're getting that platinums and above are getting paid on the business tools.
And then they tell you not to keep up with Joneses, but I think we talked about this briefly on our call. but they tell you not to keep up with the Joneses, to drive the beater car, to keep your head down, just keep going, live within your means. But they're profiting so much money off of you. I mean, my paychecks were all going to my Ditto and to my tools. And I got myself into debt on their Amway card, trying to keep up with the PV because I thought that's what I had to do.
Oh, Amway card, man. They tried to get me on that, but my credit was too bad.
I'm just really glad John was around at the time to kind of help me see the sense in this. And he also helped me seek better care for my mental health. And I went to mental health professionals who help pour into me, like, because they're trained to do that, not like your coach. Your coaches don't have any training on mental health. They're like, oh, you're feeling mentally unstable. You just need to plug in more. Like, you just need to listen to more CDs. And then you'll be like
They say
the Diamond's wives, emotionally stable.
you right. Oh my God, you just sparked something. You're not wrong. You're right. Because they do that. I've mentioned this time and time again because like you said, you had a struggle in your mental health. You went to your upline, you did all the things that they told you to do, and the only thing that they give you is, well, just plug into the system more, listen to more audios, listen to your Kates, listen to all of these stupid people say the same story over and over and over again, maybe a couple of different ways, but that's it. And one thing that I remember hearing too was this girl who was she was crossline for me, but she was my upline's daughter. And one of the first things I heard her say was, "Yeah, this business helped me get off my antidepressants." And every single time I have an opportunity to mention that, I mentioned how fucking dangerous that is to give to other people because you don't they always say, "Oh, well, don't cross line, da, 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 da." But the advice that they're giving is so detrimental to people's mental health because you are 1000% right. They have no training. They are not, and there's nobody to even check what these people are saying. They quite literally just tell you what they think is a good idea. And to them is, "Oh, just plug in more." Like, how much by the time you left, like, was your mental health deteriorated? It sounds like it was pretty rough.
It was pretty rough. I mean, $8,000 in debt. So that didn't help my self-esteem any. And my emotions were just all over the place. It turns out, I mean, I'm so grateful for my husband because when we were dating, he was like, I'm pretty sure you have bipolar disorder. And so he went to the doctors with me and was supportive for me. And the fact that he wanted to be with me and saw what a cult this was and how he like just let me come to the conclusion on my own because he told me it was going to be an ultimatum and he was pretty sure he wouldn't win that if it was him or the business. So, yeah, so we plugged in and I got my diagnosis, which was so relieving. It explained so much. It explains why I was so impulsive and, easily fell for a lot of this stuff. But once you like start seeing the red flags and you start, not getting around, it's like it's very different life.
I love the support that John gave you. And to even, like you said, he let you do things on your own and he gave you that space and that peace, but also cared so much about you to even mention the fact that, hey, this could be something that, you should look into. And I can imagine that that's hard to say as a significant other, let alone a family member. The only real like connection I have to this is my mom has borderline personality disorder. And I just remember how hard it was to even mention that to her because of the disorder itself, right? Like it's hard to hear that as somebody who has it from my understanding. But the care and the compassion that John had, shout out John, because I am so happy to hear this. And I told you guys this before because you guys would go on to get married, that you guys are one of only a handful of couples that I've talked to who, and I know he wasn't in the business, but you guys like made it out together. And I love that so much. And tell me, what was it like to leave? Because your story, like I talked about, is so inspiring.
Yeah. So when I left, I really started to focus on my career path more. And I had gotten into the banking and finance industry. I was a personal banker at the time. and I was looking to move up into leadership position because I'm like, I mean, they basically groom you to be leaders in Amway, but they really groom you to be Ambots. But I was like, you know what? Like, I still have leadership qualities despite that. And I would like to help other people and mentor people in something that's meaningful that will actually help them and not get them in debt. So I was looking into becoming a manager at the time, but I got turned down and passed up for the opportunity. And I thought, if I had school, that could help me get further in my career than if I didn't, because it gives you legitimacy. Like, it shows that you put time and effort into yourself, and it just makes you more valuable to companies. So I got them to pay for my school, my job at the time, which helped me significantly. I finished my associates, and when I was job hunting for the next job, I was able to more than double my income. So getting out of the business, it was like, it was so good for me because I was able to like stand on my own and do things by myself. Because you're not meant to be duplicated. You're not supposed to be, you know, a, a robot. You're supposed to be the best version of you that you can be. So that was kind of cool. And then paying off my debt, that was a huge accomplishment too, because my job that I was working at before I transferred, um, I was making like $800 every 2 weeks after, after taxes. And I was able to pay off $8,000 in 2 years.
It's amazing. I'm thinking about that now. $8,000 in 2 years. Amway worldwide, they tried to say that they could help you get debt free and quit your job in 2 to 5 years. All they did was put you further into debt and diminish you as a human. And in 2 years, you got a way better paying job. You paid off your debt. I remember, I didn't used to think that was such a big deal. And of course, worldwide, they made it sound like, oh, you get to pay off your debt. I never really knew anybody to pay off their debt. And you did it in 2 years afterwards. Yay. So, what else have you guys been able to accomplish since leaving the business, paying off your debt? And what does your life look like now?
Yeah, absolutely. So since then, we've been able to put aside 6 months of living expenses for emergencies. We have more than
Wow.
double of that. We have a lot of money in savings that I feel secure. Like I have peace of mind, like they always talked about. Like, I actually have that. And my husband said to mention that we're doing a kitchen remodel. We're doing it
Hell yeah.
ourselves, but we're able to pay cash for everything, all the
Wow.
appliances, and that's a $20,000 investment into a new kitchen when you get new cabinets, new appliances. I mean, those costs really add up. So just to be in a stable place. And then I'm in a career that I love with a company that I love, because I've transitioned between 4 different banks now to get to the bank that I'm currently at. And they have a huge mission in the community, and they really take care of their members, and they take care of the people that work for them. And I get to say that I'm an anti-money laundering investigator.
Hell yeah. That's such a cool job title. I mean, I'm sure the job itself is really dope too. And I think one of the jokes that you made to me when we first started talking was, unfortunately, we can't catch Amway.
Yeah, unfortunately not. Unless they're out
Dang.
there with shell companies and they get themselves caught somehow. But
Yeah.
one can only hope.
Cross our fingers. Dang. Brand new house, kitchen remodel
Oh
per
yeah.
John. We have to say that.
We bought our house. So in 2 years, so I paid off my debt in 2 years. 2 years after that, we had a 20% down payment for a house. My husband wanted land, so we found a little, rural piece of land with a little over 1 acre. And this is kind of funny. Some people might get a kick out of this, but when we bought the house, it came with livestock. So we inherited the chickens, the ducks, and the 35 feral cats.
That's wild. You got way more than you bargained for.
And we got a really good deal too. So like that was really cool to be able to pay 20% down and then to still have money in the bank for savings too. So like we've really
Yeah.
hustled. We don't drive luxury cars and we don't live in a mansion by any means, but we are building wealth in ourselves. We're able to put a healthy amount into 401ks. And these are things that Amway preaches against. They say, don't go to school. You won't need it. You know, you're not going to go anywhere. You're going to stay with us forever and we're going to help make you rich. And they say, don't invest in your 401k, invest back in yourself and your business. But when you look at what you invest in your business, it's not much. Like you make pennies, if anything, from the stuff you buy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just having that freedom and being able to be like, I'm actually like making it, you know, like I'm being successful. This is what success in real life actually looks like.
Yes. It really does. Like everything that you are saying, it's wild because you quite literally are doing everything that they said that you could not do without them. Like the amount of money that you guys have in savings is incredible. Like that just feels like so almost unattainable for someone like me. But all it took was just discipline. And like you said, like you guys don't drive the most luxurious cars, but you have cars that you probably feel safe in, that you don't have to drive around the most rundown car because that's all you can afford. Like you get to have that peace of mind, that safety. And if anything does happen, you have the money and savings to be able to take care of that.
Oh
To
yeah.
do like, I didn't even know anybody in Worldwide who really had that. So supposedly the platinums and above did that. And maybe some of them did, but I'm looking at my upline and I recently found out that my upline, Jenny and Craig, shout out, fuck you guys. Oh, also fuck you, Robert. I try to say that every episode. But I know that they had credit card debt. And that was something that they always preach. Don't get credit card debt. Don't get credit card debt. And little do they know, if it goes to court, it is public record. And now I know that as of last year, they had a credit card that was so far in debt, they had to go to court for it. And it's like, that kind of stuff is what really makes me mad because someone like you is the actual inspiration, at least to someone like me and to a lot of our listeners. You are the inspiration because you guys have really taken this cult like experience and you said, you know what? You left it in the past and you ran to what you feel is your dream future. Like when you were first beginning in Worldwide, did you ever think that what you have now was even possible?
No, not at all. I didn't even have a credit score back then, and my credit was terrible because of them. But I never thought where I am today was possible. And just to be mentally stable now and financially secure, have that peace of mind and that freedom. I mean, it's really quite. It's sometimes like I have to pinch myself because I think I'm dreaming, but
Yeah.
but I'm so
Wow.
blessed and I'm so grateful and I'm so happy. I want to let you know it is possible to get an 800 credit score because I went from 600 to 800 in 2 years. I had a higher
Wow.
score than my husband when we bought our house.
Wow. That's so awesome. Like you guys are the fucking power couple. You guys are the power couple, not fucking Rebecca and Roger or fucking the country old fucking diamond couple. Like or even the diamonds or the crowns, for God's sakes. Like you guys are good people too. You guys are out here trying to like con people. In fact, you are in the industry of trying to find the people doing this kind of stuff. And you really get this opportunity to show that it is possible because you saying those words like blew me away. I'm like, really? Like I can get an 800 credit score? What? Like it's just amazing. And this is why I'm so grateful that you were so willing to come on and to share your story because life after Amway, you guys, is 10 times better than anything that Amway could ever pitch to you. Now, if you make it to the platinum level and above, I still don't think that you will be living nearly the freedom that someone like Veronica has, or somebody who has left the business and does not any longer have this burden to bear of what am I going to put on my next ditto order, or do I have to lie to my downline today? Which is just, if you can do that, fuck you, in my humble opinion. But Veronica, thank you so much for your time. If you could give any of our listeners a word of wisdom, advice, anything that you have, what would it be?
I would say, don't give up on your dreams. I know you had dreams when you joined Amway, and maybe they seem impossible to reach, but they're not. I've been able to accomplish some of the things on my bucket list that I wanted to do. So that's really cool. And, just hang in there, figure out what it is you want and go for it. If I can do it, you can do it. And it doesn't matter how old you are or how young you are. Like, life is now, the time is now. Start living today. Don't put your life on hold.
Yes. Thank you so, so much, Veronica. Shout out to her husband, John, who is doing the kitchen remodel with her and helps get her out of this cult. And really, it was all you. Like, you were the one who had to take those steps, who had to go through all of the different things to fix your own mental health. And I don't ever want to take that away from you. I think that you are a very, very strong and incredible individual. And I am so grateful to have gotten the opportunity to listen to your story. And you guys, if you are listening, you guys have to share this. Okay. If you guys want to be like Veronica, please DM me on Instagram at exesandt.podcast. You guys can find me on TikTok at the same handle and everywhere podcasts are heard. We will catch you guys in the next episode.